Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Alisen Anderson. I am on the Young Farmers and Ranchers State Board. We welcome you to session 2 of Cultivating Healthy Minds. This session is all about stress management. We are so excited that you all have joined us today. First, we are going to visit with Trista Milliman. Trista is from District 6. She's an active member there, and she lives on a cow-calf operation with her family. Trista, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Alisen. Thank you for having me. Like Alisen said, I'm Trista Milliman, and most of you know my husband, Gage. He's the Northeast area field rep. And we've been Farm Bureau members long before he was employed by Farm Bureau. So we have grown to know and love our Farm Bureau family. With that being said, our Farm Bureau family knows our story, but I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share again. So in spring of 2018, Gage and I, and then our son Henry, we were getting ready to welcome our second child to our family. And I don't know. Sorry, it is hard to talk about, but we feel the need to share. So we feel it's important to share this stuff. When Hardy was born, it was obvious that something wasn't right, and he was diagnosed with T18 or Edwards syndrome a couple days after he was born. So we had Hardy for 6 days. We lived in the NICU for 6 days while he was hooked up to all the machines. And we ultimately had to make that awful decision to take him off the machines. And, that was without our faith and our family and our Farm Bureau family, our work families, I don't know how we would have gotten through that. But I will say that child loss is something that people don't really feel comfortable talking about, obviously. And it's something parents, it's like, no parent wants to go through that. And, but luckily we've had the support system that we've needed for that. But along with losing Hardy, of course, we were navigating our own grief. We were also helping Henry, who was expecting to be a big brother. We were navigating his grief and how you talk that through with a child. And on top of all of that, we still had to manage the ranch, like at the end of the day, those cattle still needed fed. And so that was something that at the time, as farmers and ranchers, we're so resilient. We're known for being resilient, and we're known for being fighters, and we're able to put things aside and just get back to work. And so it's a habit, but at the end of the day, that's just no matter what happens, you push through. But you've got to have an outlet. You have to be able to share that. You have to have people there for you. And Gage and I always talk about this, that, moms and dads experience grief differently. While we could support each other in our grief, at the same time, we're both going through it. So we couldn't be there for each other at full capacity, right? So we were blessed with a great church family. I know Gage visited with our pastor a lot. We're both very close to our families, even though they're 500 miles away, they're a phone call away. Our moms would come out and stay with us during that whole process. Just a story I'd like to share about how this really affected our operation. It didn't happen to the ranch, but it happened to the ranch. So we raised purebred Charolais cattle. And, this happened in the spring. So in the fall, we had bulls ready to sell. Well, because of everything that we'd been through, understandably, we were able to do the bare minimum, feeding animals, managing the ranch. And we had a buyer ready to buy 5 bulls from us in the fall. And we do all the usual things. We do the breeding soundness exams, all that stuff. Well, the buyer was pretty confident that he was going to get some great bulls from us. He wrote us a check and he said, don't worry about that. You go ahead and do the breeding soundness exam, and then we'll go ahead and you can deliver them when you're done. So Gage got the check, and then we took the bulls to the vet for their BSEs, and none of them passed. And that was directly related to the fact that, we were still dealing with our grief, and we were feeding them. They weren't starved by any means, but we weren't following the program that we normally did. And so Gage actually had to take that check back to the buyer and say, hey, I'm really sorry. Those bulls, they haven't been fed up the way they need to be. They're not in any shape for you to take right now. And of course, the buyer understood. He's in our community, and he knew what we were going through, and he was very, very understanding. But so that was just a snippet of what happened on our ranch during that time. And, it's been 5 years, and we're still, it still comes up, but, you want to have children to pass your ranch onto. And we've got Henry, but we always have that in the back of our minds. Man, if Hardy could be here, if he could be shown his first bucket calf or whatever. So anyway, our Farm Bureau family has been absolutely outstanding, and they've checked in with us ever since that happened. I just can't say enough about that. But we went through this, and it was about a year after this that we realized that people don't talk about this. It's not that it's a taboo subject, it's just a hard subject. And so we thought this would be an opportunity to share with others, and come to find out, quite a few of our Farm Bureau members and friends outside of Farm Bureau have gone through similar things with child loss that we never talked about. So that's all I have, unless I need me to cover something else. But
Trista, I think I speak for all of Oklahoma Farm Bureau. Sorry, I'm still trying to get it together. When I say that, first off, we love you, and we love your family, and we know that this was a hard subject. I can't even imagine how hard it is to talk about, but just definitely want you to know that you are changing people's lives, and not just with your job, and not just with Gage, with working with Farm Bureau and being cattle producers, but through this very hard subject, you are changing lives, and we love you. And we're so thankful that you are in Oklahoma, and we're so thankful that you are who you are. So thank you so much, Trista, for sharing. I'm going to try to get it together as I introduce Dr. Christian Graham. Dr. Graham is a licensed clinical social worker with over 20 years of experience in the mental health field. Dr. Graham currently owns Full Harvest Counseling. We love that, we love that phrase, Dr. Graham, where he provides individual, couples, and family therapy. He is also the senior pastor at Full Harvest Church, where he provides spiritual guidance and support to his congregation. In addition, Dr. Graham works for the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, where he provides integrated care training, crisis intervention, and program development services. He is also a co-owner of Southern Oklahoma Training Group, where he provides training and consultation to other mental health professionals. Dr. Graham, it is an honor and a privilege to welcome you to Session 2 of Cultivating Healthy Minds. Take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Let's see if we can get this working. Usually I can see everybody in a presentation, but that's not going to happen today. So all of my jokes are going to be shared with myself, and I'm okay with that. I hope you're okay with it too. Ms. Trista, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd also say just thank you in general to the Oklahoma Farm Bureau for being open to having this conversation. I agree. It's not that it's taboo, but it's something that I don't think we as people talk about as much as maybe we could could have the discussion. So in any case, thank you all for sharing your time with me. I will try to be concise. I've got a lot of slides to go through, and I really enjoy doing this kind of stuff. So we'll see where we land. We're going to be going through stress management for leading agriculturalists. And I'm so excited that you're here because you are leaders in your field, and that pun is completely intended. As Alison described earlier, my name is Dr. Christopher Graham. I am currently I'm working with ODMH in Carl Albert Community Mental Health, where I am the director of admissions, integrated care, and our satellite director. I cover about 10 counties, and then I also have private practice on the side, and then I'm a senior pastor at my church, Full Harvest Church. I didn't realize before Alison said that, I had no idea what I was getting into by naming my church and my business that. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be here. With all the things I do, I never sleep, and neither do you. As I can tell from the research, it shows that farmers and ranchers, you guys cover $1.2 trillion of the GDP. And I just want to lay a foundation here. You're doing it as a family operated business. So as if the stress of just running a business wasn't enough, you have to navigate it with your family. You're thinking about the legacies that are coming after. You're thinking about everything, every responsibility that you have. And then on top of that, the Food and Agriculture Organization said that they're looking for 60% more product by 2050 because our populace is growing so rapidly. The average farmer is about 52 years old, and they are actively combining business and family. But farming has one of the highest mortality rates that you're going to find in any occupation. You guys are at risk of lung disease, sun exposure, cancer, hearing loss, all of these physical ailments that come with working and functioning out in the field, in the open, with the elements and with all of the requirements that you have to go through. This can be very, very stressful. Not just that, but farming specific stressors. We've been going through, I don't know what it's like in Western Oklahoma, but Southeastern Oklahoma, my grass has been dead for weeks. So when the weather comes in, and it plays a part in how your crops will do, and how your animals will do, and how your farms are working. If there's a crop failure, if there's a change in prices, we just had COVID that went through and messed all kinds of stuff up, taxes, healthcare costs, and just the general responsibility of governing a business can be wildly overwhelming. And then when stressors come on top of that, like a loss, or you're dealing with crops that don't come in, and you're dealing with a financial loss that you weren't expecting, that hit can hit you to your core and affect you in all kinds of ways. My hope with this training today is that I can expose you to some of the interference that comes both biologically and environmentally, that we can talk about some of the triggers that we can deal with. How do we manage the stress? And then at the end of this, I would love to give you guys just a picture of some of the referral options that are available out there. So to go into this, we'll start, because I've already stressed you out. If you weren't stressed when you got on here, I'm sure that part of you is like dead inside because of all of the information I just threw at you. So let me go through some of the biological and environmental factors that can create and influence both stress responses and how we deal with it. So biological interference. Our personalities as human beings, they develop when we're really, really young. Typically, even stress that happens in utero, so as we're being born, can impact our development for the rest of our life. So there's a simple personality test that I came up with, and I've just kind of incorporated a bunch of different personality tests into it, and simplified it for myself. But there are 4 quadrants that I look at when it comes to stress management, team management, working with others, and handling just daily life. So this is kind of the Punnett square. This is the opportunity that I want you to look at. So cool blue, earth green, sunshine yellow, and fiery red. I want you, if you have pen and paper, I would like for you to navigate which one of these categories do you fit into. And I'm going to go through this test with you. It's going to be really simple. This doesn't take any math or anything like that, but we're just going to look at what color are we and what character traits go along with that, and how do we manage stress. Okay. So this is the test. It's very easy. You're going to draw a vertical line and a horizontal line. The vertical line represents value, where the horizontal line represents rate of speed. So if you are following along and you're putting a piece of paper together, it would look something like this. Now, on the top of this vertical line, you're going to see the word tasks. Are you a task-oriented person, or are you a relationship-oriented person? So tasks or relationship. And what you have to do is you have to pick a side, and you put your dot right on the line. So a task-oriented person still loves relationships. They love connection. They love engaging with people, but their value really leans more towards completing tasks, getting stuff done, handling obligations and opportunities, and dealing with day-to-day stuff. Relationship-driven people, relationship-oriented people are people that will still get stuff done. They're still going to handle the tasks, but they do it in a way that draws people in, or they want to get agreement and have connection as they're doing the task. So again, this is really in your day-to-day life, your family life, your work life. What is your value? Tasks or relationships? And then you'll put a dot on the line. So once you have a dot, and it's a continuum, the higher up you are, the more task driven you are, the lower you are, the more relationship driven. And then you can't put your dot in the middle. I know some of y'all probably put a dot right in the middle. You can't do that because it breaks the whole system, firstly. And then secondly, ain't nobody on this planet that balanced. So put your dot on the paper, and then we'll look at the horizontal line. So this is a rate of speed issue. Are you slow and methodical? Are you meticulous, detail driven about tasks, but also you value loyalty in your connections? You value a slow burn in a relationship, someone that you can really trust and that you can be close to? Or are you like my youngest son, fire, ready, aim, and you've got one speed, that's go, and you've probably already put your dot right on the paper, right? Before I even finish slow, you probably already had your dot on the paper. So if you've made an assessment of who you are and how you are and your values, and then how kind of your momentum looks, you should be able to put yourself in a quadrant. And simply all you do is you draw an intersecting point right here, a horizontal line on the vertical line, and then a vertical line on the horizontal, and then you slap your dot right down on it where it intersects. Okay. If you're following along, that should put you right in one of these quadrants, somewhere in one of these quadrants. And this is this is not a very detailed picture of what I typically would do. However, this should give you some insight. And if you're following along, this is me. This is totally my personality. This is exactly who I am. And very interesting, this develops by the time that you're typically about 6 years old. And as you age, you become more and more this person. You become comfortable with being this person. Our goal is that we want to always try and be more balanced to handle stressors and business issues, relationship issues, anything that might come up. We want to find a way to be balanced. However, we all have a primary category. And as a therapist and as a dude in a lady profession, I can tell you that being a fiery red person is not always ideal. Okay, I take my whoopings all the time because I like to drive and move and go and do all the things. I'll start 1,000 tasks and won't finish one thing. I'm fiery red. It is who I am. If my wife is on this call, she would tell you exactly that this is true. So let me give you some details about your personality, and then we'll lean into the rest of this training. So the cool blue person, I'm going to give you good day qualities, and then I'm going to give you also bad day qualities. So if you're following along, the good day qualities of a cool blue person, which is going to be up in this top left quadrant, is that they are careful, they're precise, everything they do is deliberate, they question things, and they're typically seen as very formal people. They're just careful, they just very meticulous, they like the details, and they stay in that, and they do wonderful navigating that. The earth green person, bottom left, is caring, encouraging, they love to share, they connect with people, they look for loyalty, they value agreement in relationships. These people are relaxed and patient. These are the folks that I imagine are sitting on the front porch, sipping sweet tea and talking about Jesus, right? These are the people, like, that's their personality, that's their trait. They want real connections and loyal connections. The opposite of that, though, is that sunshine yellow, and that person is, on a good day, sociable, dynamic, demonstrative, enthusiastic, and persuasive. It's easy for you to connect with people. You never walk into a room and don't know somebody. You're going to make friends. You're going to find friends. You're going to be the friend. You're going to connect with everyone. You got 5,000 Facebook friends and you know 3 people on the planet. And if you're sunshine yellow, you know I'm telling you the truth right now. However, fiery red, on a good day, now all the earth green people that are in the room right now are looking at this and they're saying, okay, fiery red, that's not a good day list. These people suck. On a good day, fiery red people are competitive, demanding, determined, strong-willed, but in their own mind, everything they do has a purpose. There's value in their own mind to everything that they do. Okay. On a bad day. Now, if you didn't see yourself or your spouse yet in the good day qualities, I'll do the bad day qualities, and I can almost guarantee that you're going to see at least your in-laws. Let's not open that bag of cats. On a bad day, cool blue people are stuffy, indecisive, suspicious, cold, and they come across as just generally reserved. On a bad day, they're not going to want to talk about their feelings. They're not going to want to go into detail about the intimate workings of their day. These folks on a bad day are going to be resistant to creating the connection. And if you are linked up with a sunshine yellow person on a bad day, you're ticked off all the time. You're angry all the time. And the sunshine yellow person is frustrated because they don't understand. The earth green person on a bad day, now, Lord love all y'all earth green people. Earth green people, you don't think you have some bad day qualities, but as a fiery red person, let me just enlighten you cautiously and respectfully. On a bad day, earth green people are docile, bland, plodding, they're not plotting, but they're plodding along because they're reliant and waiting on someone else to connect with them and to get agreement and to do it. And then you know it's true. In your heart of hearts, you know this is true. You are so stinking stubborn. If not you, then the other person in your life that's earth green, you have called them stubborn on more than one occasion. Sunshine yellow people in their own mind probably never have bad days, but everyone else around them recognizes this. They are excitable, they're frantic, they're indiscreet, they're flamboyant, and they're hasty. They are all over the place. If a cool blue person gives them a responsibility or a task, something to get done, when they're having a bad day, homie, it's never getting done. Just like, you might as well just go do it yourself, or like chalk it up, try and get in another day, but it's not going to happen for a sunshine yellow person on a bad day. And then fiery red people on a bad day. I know it sounds, earth green people, you're saying this is exactly the same list as what you said for the good day qualities. I'm telling you, this is bad day. On a bad day, fiery red people, because they're so passionate, they're aggressive, controlling, driving, overbearing, and intolerant. On a bad day, they come across as straight jerks. We must find a balance. So let me give you guys an anecdote here. So cool blue, earth green, sunshine yellow, fiery red. If these people approached an elevator, a cool blue person would walk up to the elevator. They would mentally calculate the combined weight of all the passengers, compare it to the maximum posted weight restriction, and then they're probably just going to wait for the next elevator anyways if there are more than 2 or 3 people on there. The earth green person loves that whole door open button. And if someone is down the hall carrying a bag of groceries, they'll step out of the elevator and make sure that they're getting on. And they're going to stand in the doorway and hold it just in case that elevator malfunctions and the door might close on that person. They're going to stand in the gap. Sunshine yellow people, y'all, man, you finish conversations with people as they're trying to escape the elevator. And I've got some thunder going on, so that's exciting. We've needed rain. That's awesome. So as they're trying to escape the elevator, a sunshine yellow person is holding the door, finishing a conversation with them. A fiery red person walks straight into the elevator and slams the closed door button repeatedly. And this is the general trend for personalities. How we handle stress starts when we're very, very, very young. Trauma that happens early on will affect us the rest of our lives. And what I would say is that there was a study done recently that showed that elderly folks have 90% of them have had some kind of significant trauma in their life, and a strong majority of them have never, ever, ever talked about it. Opening the elevator and letting people in and opening the conversation, I think, is tremendous that Farm Bureau is doing that and that you joined this meeting. The natural stressors by color. So blue, cool blue people, here's what we see. You get stressed out when people don't care about the details, when they do a job halfway, when people are emotional rather, and they don't have any reason for it in your own mind, when people are rushing you, when there's no plan, and when you're trying to focus on the future, but you can't even handle business today. That is going to stress and frustrate a cool blue person out. Earth green people, when you're trying to rush me, when I can't trust you, when you disregard the things that matter to me, when you disregard like people and relationships and connections, and you don't understand or you don't have loyalty, those become very, very frustrating. When I can't trust you or you're dishonest, that breaks a green person down and creates internal stress and often external stress. Sunshine yellow, you're sunshine until you're getting mad at me for no reason, or in my own mind, I'm missing details, but you're not really explaining it to me. You're not doing it fast enough, or you're not letting me connect with people. You're not connecting with me. There's no joy in the task. It becomes very frustrating. So when you're driving me all the time with time limited, detailed tasks, that's going to create just natural stress for a sunshine yellow person. And then fiery red, no, you're not just angry all the time. You're not just always mad, fiery red people. But when people are going too slow, when you've got to worry about people's feelings instead of handling business, when you're focusing on too many details and you have to get into the minutia of all of those details and still navigate people, that becomes stressful. Having to slow down when there's something to get started or get done with, or you got to work on, and you've got a plan and you're not able to just push forward, all of these things begin to stress us out, and they stress us out in different ways. So if that's the natural course of our personality, and that's biologically what we are hardwired for, there are some environmental factors. How am I doing on time? Oh, so far so good. This is great. So environmental interference that comes with just living life and being a person. There was a study that was done from 1995 to 1997 through Kaiser Permanente, which is a hospital in Southern California. And it was the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. And what they found was that they did one of the biggest longitudinal studies of its kind that went over different age groups, different ethnicities, different socioeconomic statuses, all of the gender options, everything. It covered a wide variety of people. And here's what they found. If a person has any one of these 10 items before they're 18 years old, they're far more likely to die younger than the national average, or at the very least to have some kind of chronic health condition. So this could be, of course, the usual things, and I don't mean to sound like I'm minimizing any of these. All of these are tremendously impactful. But I would say is that these are the ones that we probably think of most as far as being traumatic. So physical, emotional, sexual abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect. When we think of abuse and trauma early in childhood, most of us would probably say that these fit the bill. What we don't consider are these 5 over on the right, the household dysfunction. So having mental illness or having a family member that has mental illness can lead to chronic health conditions and stressors later on. Depression is right now the leading cause of disability worldwide. Depression is easily treatable. However, when it goes untreated, and someone in the home has an issue progressing well, it can create other problems. Having an incarcerated relative, witnessing or experiencing domestic violence before you're 18, substance abuse, and then divorce. Divorce is higher among religious people in our country. And so all of these things will influence a person's development, and they're huge environmental factors. So how does this actually look in day-to-day life? Great question. So if someone has an adverse childhood experience, one of those 10 items, it could lead to disrupted neurodevelopment, social, emotional impairments, adoption of health risk behaviors, disease, disability, and then eventually they might die early. If I were to simplify all of that, what I would say is a young person under the age of 18 has some kind of traumatic experience, like they witnessed domestic violence. Before they're 18, they witnessed their mom or their dad being assaulted and violated. They think about people differently. As they grow, their understanding of relationships and intimacy, it begins to change. So that environmental influence, now they can only, they start socially drinking, and they can only connect with people when they're drinking. And eventually they adopt these health risk behaviors. Now they've got to drink every single day. They've got to have a social lubricant so that they can even function on a day-to-day basis to get through any kind of interactions. And then you drink so long that eventually you have cirrhosis of the liver, and then ultimately we find that it leads to early death. And this is true of every person that had this study. This is absolutely, they find this to be very, very, very accurate. This is even one of the first parts of treatment that we do, is we uncover what are those, of these 10 items, which ones have you experienced, or has a family member experienced any of these? And we try and look at how does it impact the person as they go forward. And what we find is that if you have an ACE score of 4 or more, so you've answered, yes, I've had these things, 4 or more, witnessed domestic violence, substance abuse, any of the incarcerated relatives, any of those other items, 4 or more leads to 250% increased likelihood of getting an STD, 390% more of a chance that you'll have COPD, 460% more likely to suffer with depression, up to 4,600% more likely to be an IV drug user if you're a male child with a score of 6 or more, up to 5,100% more likely to have a suicide attempt in your lifetime. So globally, we know that these issues exist, that when a person has a mental health issue or a crisis and it goes untreated, then it leads to chronic health conditions. And for agriculturists, for farmers, it couldn't be more true, because here's the reality of it. The suicide rate for farmers and ag workers is nearly 5 times higher than that of the national average. In southeastern Oklahoma alone, every 6 days, someone dies of suicide. We don't talk about these things. We don't talk about what's bothering us. We don't often easily open the conversations. In fact, there's so much stigma around mental health that if you're struggling with anxiety or depression and you don't know what to do, going and telling someone, they don't know how to respond. Typically, they don't know how to respond. As a pastor, I work with other pastors all the time. I'll never forget, I had a pastor tell me, and I was still starting in ministry, but he said to me, he said, because of what you do secularly, you'll never be used in church and you'll never be trusted by a pastor, because there's such stigma about living in pain. But if we were all honest, and no one's got cameras on, but if you were honest and you took an evaluation of yourself, you might say that I have been in pain, that I'm struggling even right now, that I'm stressed out 90% of the time. And the really awful part is that it leaks out like garlic sweats. And before you even realize it, it's not your coworker that you're frustrated with. It's not the cow that you're frustrated with. Who do we take it out on? We take it out on our loved ones. We take it out on the people that matter the most to us, because they're the closest to us. They're the safest to us. Anger is cheap and easy. Anger is a mistress that will always show up whenever you call her. being in pain and defaulting to our simple stress responses of agitation, avoidance, isolation, irritability, all of those things, that becomes a safety net. And it's almost like a trance and we get stuck in it. But what we're not seeing is that it's coming out even before, but there is a way out. And I'll prove it because you asked so nicely. When we have stress, we have to recognize it. If we can recognize it early, it goes a long way in preventing it. I promise your family wants you to be proactive with stress instead of reactive with your stress, because it probably frustrates the fire out of them and they don't know how to approach it. Stress manifests physically as tension, headaches, back pain, indigestion, your stomach could hurt. And I'm a big old baby. So if my tum-tum's hurting, I'm out. Like I'm taking a day off. I'm just chilling. I can't handle that. And I know you guys probably got to work with it, but my respect, because that's hard to do. Indigestion, heart palpitations, heart issues can come from that. It manifests cognitively as we're forgetful. We don't know how to concentrate. We have difficulty communicating. We have trouble telling people what we need. We're indecisive. And then just generally, we just have an irritable demeanor. And even if you think you're hiding it well, I promise people notice. People notice when other people are in pain. We don't often talk about it, but we do see it. It's there. We take in information all the time in all different ways. So recognizing that stress is always there and how it shows up and catching it before it creates an issue. So here's this is just a simple illustration that I like to use that describes kind of how our brain works. And I'm like very, very oversimplifying this. So if you have a different way of understanding this and it's better than this, please send it to me in my email and I'd love to have it. But here's what I see. Our emotions, our stress response that need to fight or argue, or that irritability or that internalization, it's like the 5-second rule. And some of y'all may not know what the 5-second rule is. So I'm just going to tell you like you don't know. The 5-second rule is that like if I drop a piece of candy on the floor, like, you pick it up and you put it in your mouth, you can eat it. I mean, don't do that. That's gross. But if you do, like, I'm not going to judge you. It's the 5-second rule. Everyone knows this rule. So the 5-second rule of emotion is that when something stressful happens, what you do with it in the first 5 seconds that it's hitting you is going to determine how you respond for the next 20 minutes. That could lead to an outcome for a couple of hours or even days, and could lead to other issues as well. So within 5 seconds, we have to understand, is our switch on or off? Boop. So we are a light switch. Our nervous system is the first thing to develop. We grow out of our backsides, and as we're in utero, the first thing to develop is our spinal cord, and all of those nerve endings, they begin to form, and then the emotions processing center is the very first part of our brain that develops. So it is hardwired into us. It is biologically wired by design that our emotional states are always going to be present. Now, we hide them all the time, but they're always either on or off. And what we call this is the sympathetic nervous system. So you have either a sympathetic nervous response or a parasympathetic response. And again, $10 words, $2 meanings. Let me show you. When the switch is on and it's sympathetic, you're ready to drop kick somebody. I mean, you might not actually drop kick them, but you want to, and you think about it really hard. You're ready to fight, you're ready to run, you're ready to act. Okay? The other side of that, and this is only a two-way switch. This is not a dimmable switch. It's either on, fight, flight, and freeze, or it's off, and it's your parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. Your body in an off state, in a parasympathetic state, is able to actually calm itself down and to heal and recover. You can heal all kinds of physical issues by making time to flip the switch off. Because if you're on all the time, look, my light bill is stupid high right now because I refuse to live in heat. Like, I'm a baby. I refuse. So my AC is like always going, and it's stupid high, and I'm so okay with paying that. But when it comes to the light bill of our lives, we can't afford it. We can't afford to be fighting every single person. We can't afford to be fighting every single issue that comes up. We have to find a way at some point in that first 5 seconds to flip the switch. How do we do that? Great question. I don't know if that came up in the chat, but I'm going to just go ahead and say it for you. Well, let me show you. Let me walk you through it. First thing that we want to do is we want to take an inventory. So if we were to assess your stress, and I'll get everybody these slides, everyone on the call that wants the slides, I'll make sure you have them. But let's assess your stress. Have you had difficulty relaxing? Do you struggle to keep up with the demands of everyday life? Have you lost motivation? You're not excited. You've lost feelings, good feelings behind anything that you're doing. Are you distracted, irritated, short-tempered? Have you had difficulty sleeping, whether falling asleep or you're sleeping too much? Are you using alcohol to help with relaxation or sleep? Are you worried about the past, current, or future responsibilities all the time? Have you been sick or had difficulty recovering from illness? If you've answered yes to these, then absolutely you've got stress that's probably chronic stress that you've got to find a way to deal with it. Now, I'm not going to ask you to like throw on your yoga pants and go out and do like, Tai Chi or something like that. Like, that's not what I'm asking you guys to do. But what I'm saying is that we can control our stress response. And we can do it in some very easy ways. Firstly, exercise, more than just work. This is intentional, being intentional about physical health. Okay. So it doesn't mean that you got to do like 8,000 push-ups and 46 pull-ups, but it does mean that you have to be intentional about going for a walk or doing some kind of strength training or stretching or any of those things. Focusing on what's going on inside of you, or what we call meditation. It doesn't have to be sitting around a fire singing Kumbaya. It's a simple just recognizing that there's a connection between what I have going on up here and what's happening in here, and connecting those two. And you can do that at any point. If you're riding in a truck, you can do that. Deep breathing. Now, when I say deep breathing, it conjures this image of like people take big deep breaths in and big deep breaths out, and it's this long, dramatic, drawn out, like everyone knows you're doing deep breathing. That's not what we're talking about. When it comes to deep breathing, to slow your brain down, to flip the switch, all you have to do is exhale all of the air from your lungs completely and just hold for a 4 count and then breathe normally. You would be surprised at how quickly that flips the switch, because when we're in that fight, flight, freeze response, our brain, it's almost like it literally thinks that we're drowning and that we're dying. So when you intentionally let out all of your air, you're telling your brain and your spirit and your body that I know I'm alive and I know I'm safe because I'm willingly releasing all of my oxygen. And then, of course, simple relaxation techniques. Go get a massage, get your nails done, get your hair did, whatever you got to do to take care of you. Some other things that you could do: lay down on your back, cradle your head with your hands, and just look left to right slowly, 30-second increments. Just doing that can go a long way. Gargling or humming. This seems simple, but these techniques will stop you from interacting with that pain within the first 5 seconds. Just being mindful of what you're doing. So if you're drinking a soda pop or something like that, gargle with it, spit it out. I don't care. Do something to draw your attention from that thing that's causing you stress. I'll give you a few more relaxation techniques, and then I'm going to kick it off in just a moment. Some simple strategies to use are grounding techniques, calming thoughts, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 favorites. Again, everyone will get the slide so you can do this, or you can do it with me. That's fine too. First one is senses grounding technique. This is so simple. You can literally do this anywhere. You look around and you say, what 5 things can I see? And in your mind, you just call them out. You just look around you and you call out 5 things. You take a moment. What 4 things can I feel? I'll put my hands in my pockets. What can I feel? I can feel the inner lining of my pocket. I can feel that there's a little bit of a temperature difference between the outside and the inside. I feel I'm holding a clicker. There's a different texture, right? I can feel my desk, all of these things. What 4 things can you feel? What 3 things can you hear? Well, I can hear my dog who's irritated that he's in the kennel. I can hear the rain that's finally started, since it's been like 1,000 years since it's rained. I can hear the hum of my my ceiling fan, right? All of what can I hear? 2 things. What 2 things can I smell? Well, I have some tea, so I can smell the tea. I have a leather bag, so I can smell the leather, right? All of those things. Is there anything that I can taste? Well, I just took a drink of tea a little while ago, so there's some residual. I can taste the tea, or I can take another sip of tea and be really happy. And I can describe that taste to myself. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, super easy. How do you calm your thoughts? Close your eyes and imagine the face or voice of someone that you love telling you very simply that you are safe, that everything is okay, that it's going to be all right. This is not something that you have to do all dramatically and lay back and everyone's got to notice. That's not what this is. This is you close your eyes for a moment and you just check in and you allow yourself to be soothed. It is okay to not be okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 favorites. This one is very simple. 5 favorite people, 4 favorite foods, 3 favorite songs, 2 favorite places, 1 favorite movie. Easy. And all you're doing is just recalling this content so that you have these skills whenever you need them. Now, sometimes this isn't enough. Sometimes all of the stuff that I talked about, and like, I know I talk fast, I have 40 minutes and I'm down, I've got like just a couple minutes left here. But sometimes doing all of these things aren't enough. Sometimes your friends and your family coming to you and lovingly telling you that, homie, you're the worst right now. Like, you've got to get this taken care of. Or someone acknowledging that, man, you really blew up on that person or in that situation. Or someone even saying to you, you're isolating yourself, you're distant, you're cold, you're not connecting. What's going on? Sometimes other people will see things in ourselves that we can't see. So sometimes when you're in that much pain, you have to reach out and find support. We are not islanders. We literally live in the center of the country. Like, you're not on an island. You're not alone in this journey. And you not being here is not an option. You not living your life to the fullest is not an option. You just getting by and surviving is not an option. So what do we do when it's too much? When the pain's too much, when the stress is too much? Well, I just offer some help. We're here for you. So CCBHC, and this goes into kind of what we do for the state. And I'm going to give you a map at the end of this that shows that there are community mental health centers all over the state that cover your area. So every single person in the state of Oklahoma has access to this. And we, as a state-run agency, Carl Albert Community Mental Health specifically, we are a state-run agency. So all of our services are free. Doesn't cost you anything. And it's completely anonymous, and we will work with you, and of course, confidential. All of your information is confidential. So what is it that we do? Well, firstly, we understand that there is a link between mental health and physical health issues. If you're having chronic, consistent physical health issues, even chronic pain, we know that we can help work on that by addressing some of the mental health issues. My son last year, about 1 year ago, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and it flipped our entire world upside down because his diet changed. He just turned 11, and he was 67 pounds when we got his diagnosis. His sugars were well over 700. His A1C was 14.8. Like, we were rushing him to the hospital. And we didn't know if he was going to be okay. And it completely changed our life around. The very next day that we got that diagnosis, it was September 14th, we signed him up for services with our company, because I understood that with those chronic health conditions, there were other mental health issues that were going to be present, specifically with depression. When I worked with kids that have diabetes, a lot of times, and even just adults with unmanaged diabetes, and diabetes in Oklahoma is like the state bird, like everybody's got it, or someone who has it. But diabetes and the imbalance in your sugars can affect your mood, your connection, your emotion, your thinking, that brain fog when it goes too low or it goes too high. There's so many things that go along with it. So within one day of getting his diabetes diagnosis, we got him in with services. Our goal is that we navigate both chronic physical health and mental health issues together. We also address substance abuse issues. Again, all of this is free. We have counseling, case management, or care coordination. We work with your primary care. We work with family if you want us to. We can do in-home services. We do recovery support services, psychiatric care. We have medical providers, nurse care managers. We've got physicians. We've got all of these services that are right in-house, free of charge. And all that it takes is just saying, I'm having an issue, or listening to someone that's saying, you're having an issue. When we do this, when we work with you, what we find is that it works. Hospitalizations go down, health risk behaviors go down, improvements to quality of life. My son, we got him into treatment, and within the first 3 months, we got his A1C from 14.8 down to 6.8, which was tremendous. It was a massive, massive jump. We can help improve quality of life. We see homelessness go down, substance use trends down, and then just in general, well-being improves for people. It is not enough to just survive. We want to live. We want you to live. We're part of this community. If that isn't enough, then the next step, if you're not comfortable going this route, then I would say the next step is 988. 988 is a free crisis number that you can call and just talk to somebody. If you're going through something, you're suicidal, or you're struggling, or you're stressed or depressed or frustrated with something, you can call this line, you can text this line, and someone will reach out to you, and you will talk to them. And if they need to evaluate, then we'll go further for evaluation. But really, most of the time, calling 988 is just the first step in preventing a bigger mental health crisis. And I just remind you that you are not alone. We are Carl Albert Community Mental Health. We're in southeastern Oklahoma. As I said, I cover about 10 counties. We've got 7 different facilities, and multiple different programs inside of those. However, we're all over the state. So by county, you should be able to find where you are on this map, and you'll be able to see exactly which agency covers your catchment area. That, my dear friends, is all that I have. So thank you so much for your time. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Let me stop sharing, and I think Allison's going to help with that. Maybe. Yay.
Dr. Graham, thank you so much for giving us all of the incredible knowledge that you just gave us. There are a couple questions. Can you see them in the chat?
Let me see. Actually, yes.
Okay. I think most of them are just personally for you. So if you want to just answer them personally, that might be great. We'll give, as I'm wrapping up, if there's anybody else that would like to ask Dr. Graham a question, please just put it in the chat. We are just so appreciative of what you've brought to us today. I got multiple text messages while you were speaking about how incredible it was. And so we are just so thankful for you, and we're thankful that you care about farmers and ranchers like we do. So great job. Just a couple of announcements for all of those that are watching. We will have our next Cultivating Minds Series 3 on October 13th. It is the second Friday of October, same time, noon, with Dr. Shannon Farrell from Oklahoma State University. Just want to leave you all with this. Oklahoma Farm Bureau loves you. We care for you, and we want to make sure that we can do anything to help you. We'll see you all soon. Have a great weekend.